Lights, camera, action. New Jersey's film and TV industry is booming. This is the Issues Watch podcast. Hi, I'm Jeff Kazerman, Vice President of Government Relations at the New Jersey Society of CPAs, and welcome to the Issues Watch podcast. My guest today is Dave Smith, who you've probably heard before on this podcast. But what you probably did not know is that in addition to being the Society's lobbyist for 25 years, he's also been a member of the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission for 16 years. And he's also actually in the movie business as the owner of Wintegrity Films, and he's also produced other films by other studios. So Dave is the perfect person to talk to about the spectacular growth in New Jersey of the film and TV industry, much of it which is driven by the state's generous film and digital media tax credit. In just 4 years, spending by the industry here has grown from 50 million annually to 440 million. And actually, it's only fitting that there be a vibrant film and TV industry in New Jersey. After all, Thomas Edison created the first real movie, The Great Train Robbery, in New Jersey in 1903, and that was the first real movie, and which was shot in my backyard in areas of West Orange and South Orange. And up until the mid 1920s, New Jersey was, believe it or not, the prime place for movie production in the entire country. Welcome, Dave. Thanks for joining us again.
My pleasure, Jeff, always.
To get us started, can you give us a little flavor of the history of the film industry in New Jersey? I know there's a lot more history, I think, than people are aware of.
Yeah, it goes back to 1887. Hannibal Goodman had received the first patent for film. And shortly thereafter, Thomas Edison was able to create the projector. His Black Maria Studios over in West Orange had created the first film and first motion picture. We were the Hollywood of the East Coast, right? We started it all over in Fort Lee. We had films that started, in fact, recently had in New Jersey Hall of Fame, one of the first females the directors, producers to get inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame, who's one of the originators. The reality is that we had so many films that were filming here that started the infancy of the program of shooting silent movies into sound movies. And New Jersey has been a setting we have the sand mines down in South Jersey. They have duplicated for deserts. We have so many geographical advantages in the state that all kinds of movies have been filmed here. From a historical perspective, although the huge features ended up going out to California with the major studios, New Jersey is now back where we're top 5 in filmmaking in the country.
Tell us now, Dave, a little bit about what the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission does.
Sure. 47 years ago, the commission was created to support the industry. Many states have their own film commissions. It's not unusual. We were one of the first, and it was set up at the time to proactively reach out to producers and location scouts and to directors to convince them to shoot in New Jersey and to utilize all of the great talent, both actors and directors and union members, right? The behind the scenes folks to shoot your projects here in New Jersey. Joe Friedman was the first executive director. He came from the very, very successful studio experience and history. He has, at the time, a Rolodex, right? We don't have those anymore, but a Rolodex full of all of the contacts throughout the country. And he was able to reach out and personally sell the state. Shortly thereafter, Steve Gorelick came in. Steve is our executive director and has been for more than a decade. And it really is an icon in the film commission world, having seen the growth of of a small little commission up to there are 10 staff persons that we have currently.
What exactly does the commission do?
Well, the Film Commission receives phone. First of all, we had almost 500 inquiries last year from, again, producers, location scouts, directors, professionals in studios, investors that reach out and ask questions. We're the first point of entree when you want to discuss shooting a film in New Jersey. What has happened with the introduction of tax credits is that number one, it's made CPAs even more valuable than they were, because most of the producers want to know what the tax credit is, because from a financial perspective, it's a huge reason why someone will come and shoot a film or a TV show or a commercial. In New Jersey, we have, again, with our staffers, we have some folks that are designated to go out and take pictures. We have a locations library and a new system with 25,000 locations in New Jersey. And we work with all 21 counties to really get a flavor. So when someone reaches out to us, no matter how crazy their request is, we may have an option for them. We also go out, and it's not just about TV and movies. It's about the jobs that are created. We have several folks on staff who are deeply involved with high schools and VOTEX. Remember, union members are created. We create programs. We just worked with NBC to create a production assistant boot camp, where for 2 days, individuals can come in, they can learn the tricks of the trade, and this is how you have to act in services, because with all these projects and jobs comes a need for production assistants. So we work with schools on education, lots of discussions. We work with the New Jersey colleges. We have interns that are part of our program learning about filmmaking, because it's not just the glamour. There are lots of jobs, everyone from the craft services to hair and makeup and grips and carpentry and special effects and all different aspects. So there are different specialties within our commission, but we're answering questions. We're dealing with issues. For instance, our commission staff had gotten an outreach where a film shooting right now is having problems with securing a permit to park trucks in a church because it's not zoned. So we're pretty much problem solvers, and we want individuals that are coming in, they're going to drop millions of dollars or thousands of dollars, because there are independent films that we work with. We want them to know that if they run into an issue, that we have the ability to try to solve those problems.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about your main tax credit there, which I think was just enlarged a year or two ago, the Film and Digital Media Tax Credit Program.
That's a great question. Really have to understand the history of it. You had a tax credit program that was put in under Governor Corzine. And under that program, it was a $10 million program. And it had specific provisions in there that if you're going to shoot a TV show or TV show or film in New Jersey, you were getting a lower tax credit. It was, I believe, 25%. Governor Chris Christie did not like the program. The program ended because it had a sunset and it was never renewed. There was Democratic support at the time to put that bill in. Bills moved through the legislature. Governor didn't like it. There was a lot of attention. He was calling it Snooki's program because the Jersey Shore had applied for the tax credit. Governor Murphy said when he was campaigning, and I personally had discussions with him, he said one of his initiatives that he was going to focus on was to secure a tax credit program so we can bring these good paying jobs to New Jersey. We have a tremendous amount of union folks, actors too, that go across the bridge to New York, where New York has a $500 million program. Yeah. And he figured if we can keep those jobs in New Jersey, that would be a good step. So by within his first 6 months, under the leadership of Loretta Weinberg, who had pushed Assemblyman Majority Leader Greenwald, Assemblyman Moriarty, Assemblyman McCurchie, Gordon Johnson, who's a senator, they all pushed and put a program in which was a $75 million program. And it was pretty unique because as part of that program, you could get 30% tax credit, plus 5% if you were in any of the 8 most southern counties. And then there was also a 2% tax credit, diversity tax credit for women and diversity in your crews. So you could actually at the time have a 37% tax credit,
Wow.
and that was a $75 million program. Well, that sold out quickly. We started having movies and TV shows that wanted to film here. So within a year, that was bumped up to $100 million. And there were also some changes. And along the way, the CPA Society and a number of its members were very active in working with the EDA to have agreed upon principles. I think, Jeff, you know firsthand, I think you were involved in trying to resolve some of those issues, trying to make New Jersey consistent with some of the more successful programs. Well, because that $100 million, there was even a lot more attention. The legislature and the governor said, we really need to improve the program and let's encourage the building of permanent studios in New Jersey where you'll have these permanent jobs. So it's just not these TV shows and films that come in, they're here for 6 to 8 weeks and then they leave, that you'll have these studios which are permanent jobs and will keep New Jerseyans working in New Jersey. So the most recent iteration has three $100 million, so a total of $300 million pools of money.
Wow.
One of them is our standard program for film and TV and digital media. And the other two have to deal with long-term leases for TV shows, and the other has to deal with films. So when you have studios that have multiple films, and the governor also took the Aspira program, and with the Aspira program, there were provisions in there for studios. So if you're in certain areas of the state and you build studios and then there's economic development, there are also tax credits and that were available. So right now with this $300 million program, you really have three silos of money, but the improvements under the most recent changes allows any leftover money in one of the funds to be, or two of the funds to be used by the other. So
Wow.
the reality is that New Jersey is also going to be sold out because there's so much interest and there are studios being built and more on the drawing board.
So, technical question with the tax credits. So let's say I build a new studio and I commit to it being here at least 10 years. Do I get this credit for 10 years or is it just a 1-year deal?
So I'm going to give you two answers. The first answer is that there's the tax credits within the Aspire program and other EDA programs has to deal with the construction. So that's not the tax credit you're getting for the production. The production, this is the second part. The production part goes to the producers of the movies. So this is good for the studios because they have to rent out the space and utilize the services and create the jobs. The best part about the program, and by the way, the improvements, the current program removed the 8 southern counties and said, yes, you get the 30% anywhere in the state. If you are 30 miles outside the studio zone, so from the center of Manhattan, if you're outside that 30 miles, you get the 5%. That's important because there's a propensity to be as close to New York. Just historically, this would allow the filming all throughout the state to give that extra 5%. And the governor took and legislature took that diversity program, and which was 2%, and made it 4%. So you can get up to 39% filming in New Jersey. So the best part about that tax credit is that unlike some other states and other tax credit programs, you start filming, you create the jobs right away, you buy the lumber right away, you use the caterers right away, you secure the taxes right away, the income taxes are paid right away on jobs for both cast and crew. That money is not paid out as a tax credit until usually about a year goes by because you want to include your post-production tax credit to be creditable. So the benefit is you get this economic boom and you don't need to immediately because the jobs are created right away, and you don't pay the tax credit until it's been attested by a CPA that what's included in the tax credits are creditable, that you don't have any BS expenses. Right. Or that if you have on certain movies, you can't pay what's called above the line, more than 500,000. They've adjusted that for TV and series and others, but to make sure that what's being charged is appropriate. But you
Right.
get the economic boom right away.
As I mentioned earlier, spending by film and TV producers in New Jersey jumped from 50 million 4 years ago in 2017 to 400 million in 2021. So now you've just told us that this tax credit program is obviously drawing a lot of folks in New Jersey. Anything else that's responsible for this, growth?
Well, it starts. Unfortunately, we've seen when we didn't have a tax credit program, we didn't have the same type of commitment to the state. Sure, someone would come in for a day or two and film, but they didn't have staying here a week or 2 weeks. So it has been the attention here. When you have the folks, and by the way, the promotion, the governor has been out promoting along with Michael Uslan, who's he actually bought the rights to Batman back in the 70s, and he's the executive producer of all the movies. He's a Jersey guy, and he is the chairman. I'm vice chairman of the Film Commission. Michael is the chairman. Michael was out and along with Tom Bernard, who is the co-chair of Sony Classic Pictures. They've been out in California, meeting with the studio heads, meeting with producers, and encouraging them to come here. We'll be over when the numbers are all done for 2021. We'll be over $500 million when all the numbers are in, and it's I think it's at least during the governor's second term that we'll hit that $1 billion mark. By the end of the governor's term, because there are studios that are being planned and others that are opening. So that's the reality. And what happens is when you have a producer that likes shooting here and they feel, my gosh, the Film Commission really took care of me. They're able to find locations, they're able to solve problems. If they turn out that they, that spreads among their brethren. So others start coming here. And then you also have commercials, because although they're not part of the tax credit, we have so many commercials that film in Jersey. So the more attention we get, we work with film because they create jobs too, as well as industrials. So it's a digital media along with the films, the television shows, the industrials, and the commercials all create jobs and economic benefits for the state.
Right. Tell your chairman, the Batman producer, that the last one he did was great. I'd like to see more like that one. Okay, so what are producers, movie, TV producers looking for in a state? Why, for example, would a company choose Morris County to shoot a movie over Westchester County in New York? And I believe Westchester is also trying to attract TV and film uh, activity. So what are they looking for? Why should I do New Jersey over Connecticut or wherever?
Well, part of it has to deal with the experience. When folks have filmed in a state, they feel extremely comfortable because it's not just the locations, but you'll get many times a lot of the same crew, and the locations, and the service providers. So they feel that comfort, but also it's the vision of the director, because the director sitting down with a location scout and said, I want this certain look. So, and I want this certain feeling. I know when Spielberg came here to film West Side Story, Patterson bent over backwards and allowed the facade to be built, and it really, really replicated in New York City in the 60s. So number one is the tax credits, right? But when you have New York, yes, folks are gonna compete. We compete with New York, but we also work with New York. They'll want it. Many times you also need to, if you want to be in the state, because our tax credit program says that 60% of the money has to be spent in the state, right? So you may have different parts of different states throughout the country you want to film in, or you need to spend $1 million. So you may only film 5% of your movie, but if you're going to spend $1 million, we're happy, we'll take it. And that becomes tax creditable. But
Right.
it's the tax credit, number one, and number two, that director has its vision. Give an example. A movie, The Greatest Beer Run Ever. It's based on a book. Russell Crowe, Bill Murray. It's filmed in a town in New Jersey, and so we got a phone call that the director felt that this was the town, yet he wasn't getting the locations person wasn't getting approvals. So it was a matter of just we assisted as a film commission to secure the support of the people that needed to sign off on it. And the director said that if he didn't get this location, he was not going to film in New Jersey. He was going to find because this was such a perfect location. So it's also what the vision is of the director.
Right. And so also it sounds like a lot of it is the role that your commission plays in smoothing out the relations in the process with local government and making that all move. And we know how difficult local government can be.
Yeah, but
So
you know what, Jeff, just on that point, I was asked to be on a panel during the League of Municipalities, which, as you know, there are 20,000 elected officials and vendors and employees that go down to Atlantic City for 3 days of learning. And I was on a panel, and that room was full, and it was full of mayors and council members that recognized that they want these type of productions to come to their town because they do utilize the local hardware, the dry cleaning, a lot of the services. The entire discussion was about what towns can do to pass resolutions, to be film friendly, to set up local film commissions. Some counties and regions have film commissions to work locally, and how to promote their town or area better to get attention of the folks, the location scouts, producers, directors.
yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm sure many of them are completely unaware of, what New Jersey is doing and what this industry can mean for their state. I love the idea of passing resolutions and so on in advance to make it easier so the producers don't have to go through the hassle when they do show up. So Lionsgate is building a $100 million studio in Newark. So two things. What does that mean for the state? And I'm sure it's good. And are there any other large studios that are already here in New Jersey?
So yes, I was lucky enough to be invited to that announcement with the governor and Mayor Baraka and the Lionsgate folks. That is going to be a wonderful addition to revitalization of Newark. It's going to create 800 permanent jobs.
Wow.
And that's on a yearly basis. We're not talking about the construction. And by the way, the numbers are up to 125 million. And what happens too is while the studio goes down, just naturally, if you look at California and other places throughout the country, down in Georgia, once you build the studios, then they end up building out the office space because you have a lot of the post-production, the special effects, and the businesses that end up renting the office space outside the studio. So it really becomes a multiplier. New Jersey just opened up. I attended a ribbon cutting with the governor less than a year ago. Cinelli Studios, which is in Jersey City, is 100,000 square feet. It's already rented out for all three studios for the next 3 years. Wow. So it was open immediately, and they have a TV series that's shooting in there now. And finally, on the books, you have a studio. It was by Archie Busan, and who's a financier and entrepreneur. It's called Togus Holdings, and their studios have been approved by the planning board, and that will be the largest. It's going to have over 1 million square feet of studio space in Bayonne, the old Chevron site. This has been approved by the planning board. This is a couple of $100 million of investment, and that will have a couple of thousand jobs that will be permanent. And that's exciting. That is slated to open in 2 years. And there are other film studios that I know as vice chairman, I'm contacted, as our staff is, by individuals that are looking to build or retrofit, because there are a number of different buildings that have the parameters, that are 50 to 60 foot high, that are away from traffic, and with the soundproofing that can be turned into studios. And because of the demand, investors are looking to build even more studios.
Well, that's great to hear. I had no idea of the size and magnitude of the one that is going to be built in Bayonne. You seem to know a lot about the industry here in New Jersey. Give me your 2 or 3 favorite movies, not TV shows, but movies that have been filmed in New Jersey in the last, I don't know, 5, 10 years. Mine personally is The Joker, which I just loved it. But so what are you have 2 or 3 that are your favorites?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have, and you're going 5 or 10 years, and I'll go back to The Godfather 1 and 2, shot here, Goodfellas shot here,
Really?
IQ, in Princeton, A Beautiful Mind shot in Princeton, the movie Annie, which was shot at Monmouth University. And by the way, my second cousin is Aileen Quinn, who played Annie. She was at all of her family reunions. That was filmed in New Jersey. Ragtime, which starred my roommate's uncle, James Olson, who unfortunately passed away 2 weeks ago. Ragtime was filmed in New Jersey. War of the Worlds,
No.
Independence Day, Big. These are all movies that have been filmed here. And, West Side Story, I loved, right? When I watched that to see the remake, I thought Steven Spielberg's vision was beautiful. You mentioned Joker, no question. Joker took over Newark, and we're here for filming about a week and a half with the prep and the filming. There just are so many movies, and you can go through Peter Dinklage in The Station Agent. If you haven't seen that, it's a beautiful Jersey movie that was filmed up in by Green Pond in Rockaway Township in Morris County. It really started his way to Peter Dinklage's stardom. So you can work your way all throughout New Jersey. We just filmed, Halle Berry just filmed within the last year, Bruised, which was nominated for SAG Awards and other awards down in both Montclair and Atlantic City. Right now, Mark Wahlberg is filming with Halle. It's called, I believe, A Jersey Guy, it's a tentative name. Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry. But lots of films, Jeff. So for you to say 2 or 3, I'm sorry, I can't limit it to that.
Okay, and I know we won't get into this, but I know there's also a ton of movie stars who live in New Jersey. Okay, so one last question, Dave. In addition to being a lobbyist, you are also a movie producer and member of the Screen Actors Guild. I don't know if everybody in Trenton knows that, but what's it like being a producer? Are there any aspects in particular? Are there any aspects of the industry that you don't think people are aware of? For example, until you told me a year or 2 ago, I had no idea that most movies are shot in just 2 or 3 months, and it's the editing that takes up to 6 to 12 months, and most of the time. And like you just said, Joker was here for a week and a half. I would have thought they were filming for half a year. So that's just an example. What else do you think maybe people are not aware of that happens? When you're making a movie.
It's I've had a number of friends, right, who want to be on movie sets, so we've been able to get them on movie sets. I've learned, and I'm a lobbyist by profession. It's what I do. I don't play golf, right? So part of my avocation is I love the movies, and I've been in a dozen or so, member of the Screen Actors Guild and TV shows, seeing firsthand. It's really surprising how slow the process is, and the perfection that's needed. That when you see that 30-second scene, it may have taken a week to shoot that.
Wow.
Based on the angle that's necessary. That's probably the thing that surprises most folks. Having produced the movie, and it's Zeroes, Zeroes, available on a dozen plus streaming services, including Amazon Prime and IMDb Pro. For us, we were able to shoot in 18 days, but we had 3 weeks pre-production. And then it took us 2 years of editing It's the sound where we had a Grammy producer, Grammy award-winning producer, who was doing our music, and it was incorporating the music with the color correction and with the editing. It took us 2 years to really get it to where we wanted it. So it's just how long and how long the process takes to make it, and the prep that goes into the pre-production. That's probably the most surprising.
It's interesting, when I found out about how quickly, they can shoot a movie and then how long it takes to edit it. Suddenly it made sense to me because I would go to see a movie and, they have previews in the beginning. And, you'd see this guy running around in action and this and that. And they'd say, coming to a theater in, November, whatever, which is like a year later. And I was like, well, how could they have that? I mean, how could they have done all the shooting now? Don't they still have a lot to do? Well, now I know why. They've already done the shooting.
Yep. And you know what, Jeff, and then what they've done is they've done the shooting, but many times they've done just enough shooting because they wanted the trailer made. And the trailer was made for a number of reasons. May have been negotiation with certain theaters to secure a number of nights, et cetera. It's all about star power. So in the end, my film company is called Wintegrity Films. My partner is Jason Loftus, who owns the largest casting agency in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. They're Jersey residents. He and his aunt own Huey Loftus Casting. They've taught me a lot about this, but the reality is that it takes a long time, and there are a lot of aspects that you just don't see. And there's a business side of it because, we all know there's a business side, but folks tend to look at the emotional reaction or the art of the movie. But in the end, the economics of movies has changed, and just in the last 2 years with COVID, it's a whole different world. You can't really factor into the revenues from theaters as much as you have. And the streaming, while there was a dearth of content, so much content was produced, and now you've seen a lot of the big producers are cutting back and canceling programs that they have scheduled for 23 and 24, trying to get a better idea just because the economics are changing as we speak.
Hey, Dave, my mother always said that I should have gone into theater, and I was quite a hit in the 5th grade play of The Wizard of Oz. Can you talk to your co-owner about maybe putting me in his casting lineup? I think I'd do well. But anyway.
Yeah, I know. I think that he would agree that your face was made for podcasts.
You're always so funny, Dave. Anyway, as I say in the film and TV industry, that is a wrap. Did I say that right, Dave? Did I give it the right? That's a wrap.
That's perfect.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today, and I am sure we will have you back on for another interesting topic in the future. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening and watching. To learn more about the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission and the Film and Digital Media Tax Credit Program, visit film.nj.gov.